Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Jurassic Blocky video. With Jurassic Blocky recently updating their upcoming playables list in their official Discord today, we will be discussing every single species that will be added into Jurassic Blocky in 2026 and beyond. So sit tight because this list is pretty long. Now starting off with our non-hybrid herbivores, we have 10 different species. Now our first species is the Amargasaurus. It's nice to know that this species is still being worked on, as this is a pretty unique species, and it will probably be a tier 3 or 2 as it is a good chunk smaller than the already smaller Apatosaurus. Sadly, we haven't seen any pictures of the work on the model as of now, but hopefully that will change soon. Now moving on to another sauropod, we have the Diplodocus. With the one picture we have, we can clearly see that it actually resembles a Jurassic World evolution model. Going based on accurate sizes, it should be longer than the Apato, but smaller than the Brachii and others, so it would probably be a tier 4 or possibly 3. Now going on with our next sauropod, we have the Dreadnoughtus. Now this species actually does have several pictures, and it seems to be usually compared to the Brachii, which we can see it is quite a bit bigger than, as it's based on its appearance in Jurassic World Dominion. We can safely assume this creature will be a tier 5, so I am very interested to see how this species will look in game. Now, moving past sauropods, we actually have the Edmontosaurus. The Edmontosaurus is a pretty large hadrosaur and would probably be a tier 3 due to its size, as it is bigger than the Iguanodon, and the Iguanodon is actually classified as a tier 3, so I do think that grouping it up with all the other ones will make a lot of sense. Now, next we're going to be grouping up a very unique group of animals, and those are the Stegosaurids. For the Stegosaurids, we actually have, of course, the Stegosaurus and the Kentrosaurus. Both of these have pictures of the models, and we can see that with the Stegosaurus model, it seems to be more focused on Jurassic Park The Lost World model, while with the Kentrosaurus, we can clearly see the resemblance of that with Pierce and the Kentrosaurus from Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. I think it's about time we got some Stegosaurids in the game, and I really hope that these two species are able to make it into Jurassic Blocky sometime in 2026, because the fact we don't have Stegosaurids yet is kind of bothering me, and I really am interested to see how they will be adapted into Jurassic Blocky's playstyle. Now, let's go on the opposite side of the spectrum with the Pseudoceratops and Sinoceratops. Now, the Pseudoceratops has been on the rise ever since its appearance in Battle of Big Rock, the short film from Jurassic World, and sadly, this is another species with no new pictures for it. However, we do have its appearance in the Jurassic World Evolution games and, of course, the Jurassic films. As a basis, we can probably imagine just how this species is going to look in game. Now, with the Sinoceratops, we do have some pictures on the species, and as we thought, it mirrors its appearance in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. However, it has been a while since we've gotten updates on this species, and we can only hope they appear soon. Now, moving on to another hadrosaur, although smaller, is the Oranosaurus. This species has two varying paths for its design. Now, I do think that they're going to be taking the Camp Cretaceous version. Now, it has its Camp Cretaceous variant there, and it appeared also in Jurassic World Evolution. However, before the Oranosaurus was added into Jurassic World Evolution, it actually had its own original model for Jurassic World Evolution 1. I do think that the Jurassic World Evolution 1 variant looks better in my opinion, so I do think that that is going to what they're using. Now, quite frankly, I would be happy with either of these models, but I really do hope that they actually choose the evolution model. Now, this last species is small and would be a part of the AI Game Pass. Now, these are technically two different species, but it does seem that the Jurassic Blocky devs are grouping them together. These two tiny species are the Microceratus and Aqualops. Now, the reason they're probably grouped together is just due to the similarities they have. Honestly, the Aqualops is literally just a Microceratus with a horn, so I understand why they're grouping them together, and I really don't know if they'll actually make them two different playables, but I'm really thinking and leaning towards the fact that they're going to be just one combined one. Now that's all our non-hybrid herbivores, so let's move on to our non-hybrid carnivores. Now, starting off with the Atrociraptor, we actually have a bunch of pictures for this species. It has been a while since we've gotten updates, but we do have actually a bunch of pictures representing 3 of the 4 Atrociraptors present in Jurassic World Dominion. Now, we do have some pictures of Ghost, who is the white one, as you can probably tell, and then we have some more pictures of Red, which is this more redder one. Now, this last Atrociraptor is Panthera. This one is a bit more orange. However, the 4th member of the Atrociraptor pack is Tiger, which is seemingly absent. I'm just assuming that they didn't have time to choose between Panthera and Tiger and they just chose one of them. So it does make sense how she doesn't have a skin just yet, but I'm sure that whenever the Atrociraptor does come out, those 4 species are going to be represented with skins. Now, this next species is actually bigger than the Atrociraptor. That's the Australopithecus. I honestly really like the Australopithecus, and it does make me happy that these recent pictures revealing the animal are actually going to be based on the Jurassic World evolution model. It does seem that the model is completely based on the evolution model, and then we also are probably going to be getting skins to represent the colors that it does have in Jurassic World evolution. Now, this next species is another sailed animal, and that's the concavinator. The Jurassic Blocky devs have not shown anything for this species, but they could choose between two different variants, and that's between the Fallen Kingdom appearance of its taxidermy and then the Jurassic World Evolution 2 appearance. Now, in my opinion, the evolution appearance is more likely just due to the fact that they seem to focus on the evolution games and that the model in the movies was just a taxidermy. It didn't move. However, in the games, it actually does move. It has a bunch of animations and sound effects and just a bunch of other things that the taxidermy doesn't. Now, we have never. Now, this next species we're going to be focusing on is something we've never had in before, and that's the Deinosuchus. The Deinosuchus is actually a part of the Indominus Rex genome, so I do think it makes sense on why it's going to be appearing. Now, currently we have no pictures of it, but the fact that they've updated the list and still kept the Deinosuchus shows that this species is going to be coming in at some point. Now, a question is, would it only be terrestrial, or would they add in a semi-aquatic feature of it too? Another semi-aquatic creature is actually going to help us answer this question, and that's the Nothosaurus. The Nothosaurus actually did get some pretty new reveals of, just the model and the skins, so I am very interested to see how they're going to handle the Nothosaurus. If it is truly a semi-aquatic, that's probably what's going to happen with the Deinosuchus. If it's just terrestrial, then that's probably what's going to happen to the Deinosuchus. However, if they release it terrestrial and then later on add in semi-aquatic features, I wouldn't be against that. Now, moving on to another group of animals that is completely different, we're going to be moving on to the skies of the aerial animals with the Pteranodon and the Quetzalcoatlus. Now, the Pteranodon and Quetzalcoatlus have one picture each representing them. Now, we haven't had anything like them just yet in Jurassic Blocky, as none of our creatures can fly, even the Meterodon, which was able to fly in Jurassic World Rebirth. However, an interesting note of the Meterodon is that they said the Meterodon can't fly yet when it was first added in. So I do think the fact that they're reinforcing the fact that we are going to be getting Pteranodon and Quetzalcoatlus, and then the fact of them teasing that Meterodon will probably be able to fly in the future, shows that they're thinking of adding in flying into the game, and I do think that makes sense. Adding in Pteranodon and Quetzalcoatlus would open the door for a bunch of other aerial animals that are present in the franchise, but also just in real life. I do think this is what is going to happen, and I'm really, really certain that we're going to be getting them sometime soon, hopefully in 2026. Now, moving on to a completely different era here is the Smilodon. However, it does have an interesting, unique feature that sets it apart from everything else on the list, and that's the fact that it says group creature in parentheses. Now, group creature could mean a lot of things. However, when I think of group creature, I actually think of another Jurassic World game. That's the mobile game Jurassic World Alive. Now, if you guys didn't know, there's a bunch of different creatures that you can collect in that game. And one of them is the Compsognathus and just a bunch of other smaller animals like the Marsupial, Aqualops, and Microceratops. Now, what they do for those smaller animals, obviously, is this is some sort of fighting game. So they can't just have a tiny copy face like, let's say, a T-Rex by itself. So what they do is actually group them together. Have 3 copies, and then you have their combined health and attack, all to actually make the animal better. I do think that is what's going to happen. I think they're going to group up like maybe 2 or 3 Smilodons and have that stack its health and attack, so it's actually a viable creature. Because of that, it could actually be a tier 2 or 3, maybe even 4, if they group up so many of them. But we don't really know. I do think that this is what's going to happen, and I really do hope that they do this for actually other animals, other small animals, maybe Compsognathus, maybe Mars intrepidus. There's just so many different things they could take for this. Now, this next species we have is actually part of the AI Game Pass, and this is Coelophysis. Now, the Coelophysis again had its appearance in Jurassic World Evolution, and that's probably what we're going to be using to mirror the evolution game designs and be similar to the goat. What I do hope for this AI Game Pass is the fact that they give us more animals to kill just while we're running around. Currently, the only thing we can kill as an NPC is the goat. So I'm assuming if they're a part of the AI Game Pass, that means we're going to have this Coelophysis, for example, be a bot, and we can also kill it to get dino coins similar to the goat. These next 2 species aren't actually on the list. But these 2 species are things we have gotten teasers on and actually word on the models and stuff. And that's the Monolophosaurus and the Cryolophosaurus. Now, this Cryolophosaurus, again, is mimicking the Jurassic World Evolution 2 design. And it actually does seem to be actually almost done. It has even the colors, and I wouldn't be surprised if it actually has this sound design of it too. I do think that is very interesting that the Cryolophosaurus is not even on the list, but it's basically done. So I'm assuming we're going to be getting the Cryolophosaurus sometime soon. Now, the Monolophosaurus is actually also present here. Now, we haven't really gotten that much word on the Monolophosaurus, but we can see that it's not really that done, but it does have the model at least. However, it just is white right now, so it has no art and probably no sound effects either. Now, we're going to be moving on to our few omnivores. Now, starting off with our newest reveal, and that's the Dinocyrus. Now, we actually got a little bit of word of that the Dinocyrus is actually being worked on, and currently, right now, the only thing we have is an eye shot. I'm honestly thinking that they're going to be using the Jurassic World Evolution model. I do think that using the Dinosaurus model from Evolution 2 is probably the best bet. That is a really beautiful design, and I would honestly love to see that. Now, the next animal is again would be a part of the AI Game Pass, and that would be the Oviraptor. Now, this would probably be focused more on the Jurassic World Dominion variant, but right now we don't have any pictures, and sadly, it's the only Omnivore we don't have any pictures of. So it does suck that we're not going to be getting the Oviraptor sometime soon, but I'm sure that in the future we're going to be getting the full AI Game Pass coming out. Now, this next omnivore is actually the Troodon. Now, the Troodon is our final omnivore, and it isn't based on the Jurassic World Evolution design. No, it's based on the Jurassic Park the game design. Now, Jurassic Park the game is a Telltale game that came out in 2011, if I believe, but it actually has a really, really unique design, and I honestly think it's better than the Evolution design. I do think that this was the right call, just because of how cool the Troodon design is there, and just the themes it plays in. I do think the fact that they're actually making the teasers mirror the game's actual representation of the Troodon too lets me know that they actually did their homework. And I'm honestly really, really interested to hear the sound design, because the Troodon sound design in Jurassic Park game is so good. It's absolutely amazing, and I really hope they have that. Now, let's move on to our hybrids. Now, our first hybrid is a Jurassic World Evolution exclusive hybrid, and that's the Ankylodocus. Now, the Ankylodocus, as you can tell, is a combination of the Ankylosaurus and the Diplodocus. It's a very unique hybrid sauropod, and that's just the fact that its tail is actually the club of the Ankylosaurus. It also has armor, like the Saltosaurus. Now, the Jurassic World Evolution games actually have two variants of this. One in the first Evolution game, and then one in the second and third games. Now, in my opinion, the first rendition, the original in Jurassic World Evolution 1, kind of sucks. And it sucks so bad that community outrage sparked a whole redesign to happen in Jurassic World Evolution 2, which then carried on to 3. Now, in my opinion, the redesign is way better, and I'm thinking that they'll probably use that one just because it's way prettier when compared to the Ankylodocus in Jurassic World Evolution 1. And honestly, I think it would make the Ankylodocus stand out more when compared to other already present sauropods in Jurassic Blocky. These next two hybrids I'm actually going to combine into one category, and that's the contest winners. Now, for the contest winners, we have two animals, and that's the Draconisaur and the Christovinator. Now, currently, right now, we only have artwork for the Christovinator. However, the Draconisaur actually has a whole model, and it's probably going to be the first one that we added in. Unless the Christovinator has a whole model in the background and haven't teased any about it, and it's just going to be a shadow dropped, I really don't think it's going to be the Christovinator first, and it will probably just be the Draconisaur. Another species we have is actually the Stegoceratops. Now, there's actually two versions they can take of when it comes to this species. Now, the species, of course, had its appearance in Jurassic World Evolution, and this combination seemed to be more of the Stegoceratops and the Stegosaurus. However, the Stegoceratops was actually supposed to appear in Jurassic World 2, but it was removed last minute. However, we can see glimpses of the Stegoceratops on Dr. Wu's computer in the climax of Jurassic World, where Vic Hoskins confronts the group. Now, it does seem that this Stegoceratops design seemed to be more of a combination of the Pseudoceratops and the Stegosaurus. I honestly am baffled on which one they're going to choose, and I honestly think either one will be fine. But in my opinion, I do think that the Stegoceratops from Jurassic World Evolution is better, just because of the colors and all that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they chose that design artwork one, which really isn't too canon. And if they did add that in, I'm starting to think, would they also add in all the other hybrids that were shown on the computer screen in that brief little scene? Now, this next hybrid actually did appear for longer, and that's the Spinoceratops. Now, the Spinoceratops, of course, from you can tell, it's a combination of the Spinosaurus and the Sinoceratops. This will probably be another omnivore, so it is very interesting to see. However, in the show, it actually appeared in Captain Cretaceous as a baby, and then later on, it got an adult model in the Evolution games. Now, obviously, we're going to be getting the adult model probably, and again, Evolution is really the only place we can really get that. Another place they could get the model from is Jurassic World Alive, but it does seem that the Jurassic Blocky devs like to use Jurassic World Evolution for inspiration, as seen from various of the models and sometimes their playables, such as the Spinoclavis. Now, we're going to be moving on to the most infamous hybrid and species period missing, and that's the Indoraptor. Everybody saw this coming, and this species was originally absent from this planned species list, making people think it was actually canceled. But it was clarified by the devs that it wasn't canceled, that it was just a mistake, and they accidentally switched that out with the reverse Spinosaurus, which was already edited, as we can tell. Now, there's so many pictures of this species, so many skins and teasers for it, yet it's been so long since we've heard anything from this species. Quite frankly, we don't know anything about this creature's release date, and all we can hope is that it gets added in this year. And I'm thinking it'll probably be saved for a later year because of that. And I know a lot of Jurassic Blocky YouTubers have been saying, oh, it's coming this year, it's coming this year. We really don't know anything. We can't be saying it's coming this year when we really don't. We already know that in 2026 they weren't going to be focusing too much on playables and more just game modes and other stuff instead of just different playables. And that is every single species that is going to be added into Jurassic Blocky as of now. Please know that they are able to completely scrap certain species even if they're working on it and adding brand new ones, so just keep checking the plant species tab for updates. And just because you don't see it on the thing doesn't mean it's completely canceled or anything. You just have to do some extra research, as shown, of course, with the Monolophosaurus and the Cryolophosaurus. But that's everything for me. What do you guys think will be added in? Which of these species are you most excited for? What species do you want to see be added in? Please let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. But that's everything for me, and I will see you guys later.